The Australian Financial Review.
I really care about future Janine. I had an aha moment years ago. I remember being in Fairhaven Beach in Victoria and I saw a woman, she was probably 88, with a surfboard under her arm. And I said, I want to be her. You know when people talk about this imposter syndrome, right? I think it's just bullshit, right?
Hi, I'm Sally Patton, editor of Boss from the Australian Financial Review, and welcome to 15 Minutes with the Boss, a podcast about success and failure and everything in between, and along the way we're hoping to get some great advice from our leaders. My guest today is Janine Allis, the founder of Boost Juice and the chairman of Retail Zoo. Hi Janine, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming in today. You are the founder of Boost Juice and the chairman of Retail Zoo, which houses Boost, Salsa's Fresh Mex Grill and Betty's Burgers, and you also sit on the board of Kogan, the online retailer. You started Boost in 2000 when you were 32, and there are now 850 stores in 13 countries, and you also have about 60 Betty's Burgers. That sounds like a lot to keep you busy, but on top of all of that, you are a previous winner of the Telstra Businesswoman of the Year, and you've appeared on Shark Tank, Australian Survivor, Celebrity Apprentice, and Gordon Ramsay's Food Stars. You're everywhere.
Yeah, I know, yeah. I've been busy. I say yes a lot.
You do, yeah. Actually, do you make a point of saying yes?
I do. I think life's more interesting if you say yes before you say no, because no means safe. No means, you don't need to put yourself out there. So for me, yes has been fun.
Ah, that's interesting, yeah, because no means not taking any chances.
Yeah, and the status quo absolutely doesn't change.
I love that. Now, we've only got 15 minutes. Let's start the clock right now. And my first question is, and I'm slightly nervous to ask this in your case, what does your morning routine look like? What time do you get up?
The alarm goes off about 5:15. I do the same thing every morning. So I get up, I have vitamins, I do my facial cream, blah, blah, blah. I go downstairs. By that stage, I've got 2 dogs and a cat following me at my feet. So I feed the cat first because it meows the loudest so the dogs can wait. I then put on my prana chai on the pot because it needs to brew.
Right.
I then feed the dogs because then at that stage they're done after they've done a wee, right? So then I've actually checked in and I check the surf. And so by the time the dogs are fed, the dishwasher's cleaned, and I've had more supplements and I have now got my chai's now ready to brew, I then get in my car at about 10 to 6 to then head to the beach.
And are you a surfer?
Yes.
On longboards or normal boards?
Oh, my God, long boards.
Right.
So, yeah, so then we find a wave, some days successful, some days not, but every day I will get in the ocean. I truly believe there is something energetic about the ocean. I think that the minerals of the salt and watching the sunrise, and I mean, it's already proven that the circadian rhythms of watching the sunrise helps with sleep. So on every level, it does grounding, it does exercise, it does the social aspect of doing it with a girlfriend, it does the mental thing of the challenge of doing surfing, which is huge. And I just get out of the ocean, have a coffee, have a laugh. You break down that wave or that thing you missed or how you stuffed it up, and then you get on with your day.
Wow, fantastic. So in addition to all those vitamins, do you also eat breakfast?
No, I don't eat breakfast. Chobani has a no sugar yogurt. So I do that and I mix in with that creatine and resveratrol into the yogurt. And then I do a fibre in there. And then I add in there, again, low sugar muesli, which is a cocoa. And so that's what I have in the morning. And I have that while I put the sauna on to then go in the sauna.
That is quite a routine.
It is. And it's the same thing. Like now I say that, look, I travel interstate and, things get thrown out. But that is my routine that really is working for me.
Okay. My next question is, can you tell me about a pivotal moment in your career, a project that you took on or something that you did that really changed the nature and the whole path of what you were doing?
Look, I think it was starting Boost. I was a publicist at the United International Pictures for a movie company, and the interesting thing with Boost was naivety got me into it because I thought, how hard could it be? No one told me. If I said to them, oh, by the way, I'd like to start a juice bar with no business experience, not a degree in anything. Apparently, I'm actually the only degree I've ever got in my life is a yoga instructor degree. So I'm actually a yoga teacher, and that's kind of it.
Right? Yeah.
And so, so for me, it was really being this young woman on a massive learning curve of how to actually work out how to run a business, because I found the weight of getting it right was huge. But I also believe that I'm not an expert, never will be, but I'm a student. And so I was a student of business, and how to learn doing business was doing it.
Okay. So what was the hardest part about setting it up at the time?
I think everything. Like, I didn't understand about voltages of equipment. I didn't understand about DAs of sites. I didn't understand about leasing. I didn't understand about food. I didn't understand about the Food Standards Code. But the thing was that it was just doing it and going, okay, how do I learn? And then how do I create a system? And how do I create a process? So when you look at any brands, all brands start with thin air, an idea, and then they have to become a business that has 800 stores in 13 countries.
Wow, it's a great story. So what's the best piece of career advice you've ever been given?
Obviously hire slowly and fire fast, is one thing, and making sure, because it's all about people. Your business is only successful as your weakest person.
So on that note, have you fired a lot of people as soon as their probation or just before their probation period has finished?
Yeah, ideally, yes, that's pretty much. But then sometimes, the other thing I've done badly is I set people up to fail. I don't mean to, but, if they're really good at something, you go, all right, I'll give you more and more and more and more. And then suddenly they don't want to let you down, but they're not capable of what I've given them. I've done that before. And
that's interesting. So have you learned from that and learned how to help people along the way rather than to set them up for failure?
Yeah, I have. First and foremost, acknowledging that maybe they're not able to do that next step, and or ensuring that they're more prepared. So I think the key thing with any leader is that before you actually look at the person, you look at yourself first. Have I given them the resources? Have I given them the opportunity? Have I given them the tools? And have I communicated, more importantly, what I needed done? So if I can tick all those boxes, then you can go, right, okay, well, maybe it's not working out. So I think the key thing is people. So, and it's also reviewing people, but not only just, it's not about firing fast. It's also about how do you communicate and be the best possible leader? How do you give them the tools for them to be the best version of themselves?
So besides hiring slowly and firing fast, what other great piece of career advice have you picked up?
Again, with people, don't blunt their sword.
Can you explain that?
Yes. So what I mean by that is that, some person is, if they're really highly creative, right? And you go, right, you're a creative and you're in the role, don't try and make them analytical. Right. So because quite often what you do is if you try and go, you need to do better paperwork, you need to do this, you got to do all these things, or you got to do the analytics of what you're doing. Well, suddenly you're killing their creativity. And so in actual fact, you're better off getting an analytical person with them and getting them to respect each other and see where the power is. That's where the true power comes from. And so not blunting their sword, I think, is really important too. And just putting the right people in the right roles.
That's interesting. So do you think the same in terms of management? So just because someone is creative and is really good at what they do doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be a great manager.
Correct. And they don't want to be a great manager.
So have you sort of learned, have you made the mistake before of promoting someone to a manager when actually that was...
Totally. Completely. And completely. And sometimes they don't even know it. They just go, oh, I should be progressing because I should be. Well, no, maybe you just love what you do and that's okay. So, but it's all about people.
That's also really good advice. I love that. Okay, on that note, we are going to take a short break, but Janine, don't go away. We're going to come back and open our lovely chatterbox. Welcome back to 15 Minutes with the Boss. I am Sally Patton, the editor of Boss, and I'm here with Janine Allis, the founder of Boost. Now, Janine, this is our section called the Chatterbox. In front of you, as you can see, is this lovely, quite lo-fi, I'm afraid, cardboard box, inside which are about 15 questions. Yep. I'm going to ask you to pick some out one by one.
Okay.
And we'll do more Q&A.
All right, there you go.
Okay, great. Thank you. Who is the person outside of the business world whom you most admire and why?
Outside of the business world?
Yeah. Any, singers, prime ministers, musicians?
I don't put people on pedestals. And I learned that when I was 21 working on David Bowie's yacht. I met Mick Jagger and Michael Caine and Robin Williams and Eric Idle and all of these type of people. And I realised they were just people, right? So musicians, I certainly admire, but I think it's people that make changes in the world, like Fiona Wood, who is an inventor of skin for burns victims, which is life-changing, and then you think of Bill Gates. Bill Gates wanted to help sanitization in third world countries. Because why? Because it is important. Right?
Yeah.
So I think those sort of people are people where I go, where I always thought one person can't change the world. It's whether those type of people can actually change how the world is and how we think.
So the fact that you have never put anybody up on a pedestal, at least since you were in your early 20s, has that somehow helped you in business because you don't hold people in awe?
But I also don't hold myself in awe. People who work for me, I always consider them working with me because I can't do it without them, right?
Yeah.
I can't do it without a team of super smart people. Now, I finished school at 16, right? My school didn't even go to year 12. It was a tech school, right? So, but equally, I never ever felt that I was less than someone. All I felt was in a room that we needed to get shit done and I needed to learn a lot and I hated paying legal fees, right? And so my view was, I thought, if I'm paying a lawyer who's been to school for 6 years to do law and I'm paying them $700 to $1,000 an hour, I want to not just go, is that contract right? I want to make sure that I sit down and go through everything and learn. So, I think that I know as much about trademarks, worldwide trademarks, than any other lawyer, right? The other thing I found out by having that curious mind is lawyers get it wrong a lot, and so do accountants.
So it sounds like your humility and your just desire to learn and to be across everything has really stood you in good stead.
I don't see it as humility. I see it as understanding my knowledge base and understanding that I'm the student always. So, yeah, it's not humility. I think it's realism.
Yeah.
And it's not even me. When people talk about this imposter syndrome, right? I think it's just bullshit, right?
Oh, okay. Tell me why.
Well, because we are all learning. There is no one out there who's an expert. If someone turns to me and say, I am an expert in blah, then I just look at them and go, wow, that's really sad for you because there's nothing more for you to learn. If you're an expert, that means that they don't need to learn anything else. They're an expert.
Oh, that's interesting. So if we're all learning, then there's no such thing as imposter syndrome.
Of course there's not. No, we're just learning.
Yeah.
You're just there on the curve and you're learning.
Yeah.
So when someone sort of goes, I feel like I'm supposed to be, well, no, you're supposed to be wherever you are.
Yeah.
That's okay.
That's great. Okay, next question. Have a fish in the box. Oh, and this is a new one. What is your favourite health hack?
Look, I'm an early adopter in the health hack. So let me explain why health is important to me. I really care about future Janine, right? I care about her. So I want to have the discipline today to ensure that the future Janine's okay. So what does that mean? Right. For me, it means that I get good sleep. I don't drink much alcohol. I exercise and I eat relatively well. Right. I know that sounds like I'm an incredibly boring person, but I had an aha moment years ago, and I saw a little old lady walking with a walker, and I sort of, I thought, oh God, I do not want to be her. I remember being in Fairhaven Beach in Victoria, and I saw a woman. She was probably 88 with a surfboard under her arm, and I said, I want to be her. And I also decided that every decision that I make today dictates which version of myself I will be. And so, so I'm finding that, I'm feeling the best I've ever felt.
And what supplements do you take?
Oh God, how long have you got? No, I've got resveratrol, MNM. I take omega-3. I take ginseng, ginkgo biloba. I take creatine. I take vitamin D.
Okay.
Oh, and I'm also on and a massive fan of HRT.
Oh, okay.
There's a curve that actually goes up with regard to increase of all sorts of mortalities, and then the curve when you are taking HRT, what it does. And it also makes sense to me, right? So I don't know if on the most simplest terms is that as soon as you cannot bear children, the body goes, well, not what's the point, but it kind of goes, what's the point? So I think if you're continuing to keep your hormones in balance, then your body is in balance. And I implore women to at least do the research on it.
Well, I wish you luck, and I have every confidence that you'll be surfing when you're 88.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Great. Okay, have another go in the box. Okay. What part of your job don't you like?
Filling in forms. I think that is just the most monotonous thing. I'm lucky enough I've got a PA, and so most of the jobs I don't like, she gets. So, dealing with bureaucracy just does my head in.
Are there parts of leadership that you don't like so much?
The people part sometimes I really struggle with. I love the people part when you're seeing people develop and being the best they can be, and I hate the people part where people don't do the right thing in the business, or that they do the right thing but they're not quite good enough at their job, or so the people part is thing. And I'm not very good when people tell me problems, because in the back of my head I go, oh really? But externally I go, oh really? So your dog broke its leg. That's sad. I'm sorry, it did. But I also believe in verbs and saws. And what that means for me is people who are victims, entitled, rescue and blame, VERB, which is the people who come and go, I deserve a promotion because I've been here for a year, or the mistake happened and it wasn't my fault, right? So those sort of things is like they're verbs, right? But if you can change your life and become a SAW, which is solutions, ownership, accountability and responsibility. In business, there's always problems, but if you constantly train your brain to go to solutions, ownership is actually gives you power. As soon as you say it's not your fault, interest rate rises have risen, my business is down. Nothing you can do about it. We just have to wait for the interest rate rises to go down, won't you? Or you go, my business is suffering. What else can I do? It's my problem. It is me.
Right.
So I hire on that. I promote on that. I look for people that has that. I do business with people a lot that are the SAW.
I love that. So one side just equals complacency, I guess.
Yes, victims, yeah.
Victims.
Yeah, no, my fault. My husband's annoying me. We'll leave him.
And on that note, Janine, you have finished with flying colours the Chatterbox section. I now have one last question which we ask all our guests, and that is, if you weren't running Boost and Betty's Burgers and all the others, what would you be doing?
I'd like to one day maybe do a health retreat. The longevity health space is booming, right? If we can get more people to consider their health, the amount of money people spend on cars and other stuff, but their health, I think I'd like to do that. And it's not about living forever. I want to live as long as I can, as long as I'm healthy.
Yeah.
And if that's 80, great. If that's 150, great. But that's my goal.
And Janine, that is our time up. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed listening to you about your morning routine and the fact that you go into the water every morning and you get those minerals from the salt water on your skin. I love your health hack. You are preparing now to be the future Janine with a surfboard under your arm at the age of 88. I really like the idea that you should promote people really only within the capabilities, because the alternative is that you might promote them too far and they'll fail and it won't be good for you either. I love the idea that you just say yes, because that is your chance to learn. So I'm going to adopt that. Don't say no. And I really like the idea that the successful people really should be all about solutions, ownership, accountability and responsibility, and don't be a victim. So thank you so much for allowing us to spend 15 minutes with the boss. It's been an absolute delight.
Pleasure.
And thank you to everyone for listening. If you like the podcast and would like to hear more, consider sharing the podcast or writing a review, as it helps us to reach more people, and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. At the Financial Review, we investigate the big stories about markets, business and power. For more, go to afr.com, and you can subscribe to the Financial Review, the daily habit of successful people, at afr.com/subscribe. This podcast was hosted by me, Sally Patton, and produced by Lap Fan and Martin Peralta. Our theme is by Alex Gow, our head of podcast is Lap Fan, and the head of premium content is Fiona Buffini.
The Australian Financial Review.